I had this sketch from 2005. It was dedicated to an ex-girlfriend. As cool as she was quite a pain in the ass, so quite evil. So the idea was to develop that design that I quite liked it. So the idea was to have this kind of demon behind her. I wanted some red light from behind, like this is a gift from hell, something like that. And I have to admit that looking at the video, I regret that I didn't stick to the original idea, this demon behind. But later on, I studied the hand because I wanted to make those hands, the hands of the demon. But I realized that the design was too narrow. It was not large enough to have those hands, and so I worked on the hands in a separated file, and here I'm still looking at those hands, but I decided to redesign them because I wouldn't stress enough about how good it is for you to copy something, understand the structure, and not trace. Because if you trace something, you don't learn anything. Especially if you're a novice, you need to understand the structure, understand where the lines are going, why, and so on. So anytime that you can, and I do it myself, as you can see, I copy to understand how exactly this hand is moving and what kind of lines I need to recreate that end. So I did this work and I placed the hand, but I realized that there was not enough space. So as you can see, I'm struggling trying to place that end, and at the end I end up thinking about something different. Instead of enlarge the picture, I just redraw everything. I thought about this demon, a different demon, like something. I have to admit, I'm not completely satisfied about this, because as I'm seeing now the video, I see that is not like the first idea. It like as I told you, like a gift from hell. Is more like she's there and there is a demon that is just flowing around there, and well, it makes no sense. But at some point, because of course during the lockdown I had a lot of free time, I was experimenting with brushes, because I have tons of brushes for Photoshop downloaded, and as gifts. Some of them I bought them. So I lost track and I started design something different, experimenting with brushes instead of stick to my original idea. And that's why I always say that if you have the chance, it's good that you record your progress and your work, so you can watch it later at a higher speed, so you can see what you were doing, where your idea was, and maybe you end up like I did in this case, thinking, what the hell was I thinking? The original idea was already good. It was just about changing a little bit the size of the canvas, just make it larger. But well, at this point I completely forgot what I was doing. I was just experimenting with light, and it makes not even sense, because this work was done in half day. Probably I spent no more than 3 or 4 hours. I don't remember, but yeah, I spent a lot of time trying to recreate the light, the original light, the red light that was coming from behind, and you can see on the end. But if you look at the whole picture, the first thing that you think, at least the first thing that I think, is where that red light is coming from? I mean, there's no red light behind. There is not enough red light coming from the face of the demon, and not even from the eyes of the demon. There's not enough light to create those reflections on the ends, and not even around the lady. So it could be that kind of blood stain, maybe. But anyway, it was just playtime. I wasn't thinking too much that day, and so I lost track, and I was working more on the brushes than on the design. But I kind of like that feeling of something so dirty. I don't know how to explain those kind of design. I really love those design, those illustration where the design is not so perfect. The lines are not perfect. There is Gigi Cavenago. I suggest you to watch his stuff. Is a cover artist for Dylan Dog. Is a famous Italian comic book, and I find that he has a style that is amazing. Probably also because the choice of colors and the style, it reminds me a little bit of one of my teachers, that was Karel Toll, that was a Dutch illustrator, very famous in Italy for his covers for the sci-fi book series Urania, and it was amazing. Probably. And I was a little bit trying to recreate that style, even if, of course, it's my first attempt, and I have to work a lot more before I can reach his style or something similar. Because, of course, my style is cleaner, is different, and more realistic, and so. But anyway, my experiment with the red light here, I like them, but still, where that red light is coming from, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what I was thinking, because there's no red light there. There should be some kind of red glow behind there. But anyway, it's kind of cool in some way. And here you can see I traced my own design. My really old design. I mean, 2005 is 15 years ago. And I trace it, and of course, I'm coloring it. I just used the pencil sketch that I did 15 years ago, just as a base to redraw this cool lady. It's quite sexy in some sort of way, apart from those nails that are quite scary, and also her expression is quite scary. And I also lost a bit of her hair there, and here you can see I'm experimenting. It was just playtime. I was just playing, losing track, and I don't even know what I was doing, jumping here and there, working on well, at the end it's a cool design, and it's not so bad. It could be a cover for a comic. Yeah, it could be a cover for a comic. And sometime when I do something like that without thinking about the project, just losing myself in the play of painting something that I just enjoy doing it, sometimes I find myself, I always leave an empty space in the top left, because when I was a cover artist, I was working for this comic magazine, and the title was exactly in the top left. So whenever I was doing some illustration, some cover, of course I had to think that area needed to be quite empty because there was the logo of the magazine. So sometimes, as in this case, I left that area empty. And so at the end, the best thing that I came out to place something there was to put a script, some sort of logo. And of course, I could have worked a little bit more on the face, on the hair, on the outline, to do something better, something more realistic. But I was just playing. Here, it was just a play to study a little bit my brushes, to find something new, to experiment with the brushes, a little bit of reflections. And so I was happy enough. It was just to fill my time during the lockdown. And since I always loved that sketch, I just wanted to develop that sketch a little bit more. Probably, if I have the time, I will take this illustration and I will work on that. Probably keeping the lady as she is, because I really like her, and redraw completely the background because I'm not really happy. I like how I created those blobs of color there, but still I'm not completely satisfied. But I think it's cool to share also the things that you're not completely satisfied, to have a feedback. Maybe something that you don't like, other people will like it more. Sometimes happens that I do something that I totally dislike and people tell me, wow, but it's great, it's beautiful, why don't you like it? Well, because I don't. But yeah, sometimes can happen. So this is the first design, and here is the final result. Hope you like it. Hope you enjoy the video. Remember to subscribe to my channel, click on the bell, and see you soon.